Welcome back to another Create Mod video. In this one, we are going over an andesite farm that'll produce 21,000 andesite per hour, which is hopefully more than you will ever need. This farm can run on its own or in addition to other farms that produce flint with just a little connection here and an input or something like that. I'll go over exactly how to do that, but first, the farm itself. This andesite farm runs with just this little cobblestone generator in the back here, and that will produce enough gravel and flint to power the whole thing. After cobblestone is generated, it'll be pushed through these crushing wheels to turn into gravel, and then we'll go up here to get passed into all of these millstones to get turned into flint. Part of the gravel is also dropped off and brought to the other side of these basins here to be turned into andesite, which when paired with the flint will obviously make andesite. That'll all come over to here and get put into this barrel here, which is our output chest. Obviously, you'll need to expand this if you're planning on getting 21,000 andesite an hour, but with the new Create 6, you probably want to just send this back to your main storage system anyway with chain conveyors and all that stuff, so you're probably not going to use that anyway. This farm uses 34,000 stress units, which actually isn't too bad considering how much it actually makes. Just as a comparison, this iron farm over here produces 34,000 stress units, 34,300, so it's actually a little bit more, even though it produces way less iron than this does andesite. So all things considered, this is pretty sweet. I'm going to be going over how to set up the schematic as well as building a block by block tutorial for this farm, and I'm also going to explain how/why you may want to connect it up with other flint producing farms like an iron farm like this one to potentially increase the rates. As I mentioned, the gravel is split up into being turned into flint and also just standard gravel for making andesite. The benefit of supplementing some of the flint is that then more of the gravel that would be used for flint can then be used for gravel to make andesite, which is exactly why this type of farm may actually fill up with the 3 presses that we have here, producing more than 20,000 an hour. To speed up the farm, if you have too much flint being generated and you see something like this where everything is backed up, these are running at all times and you're still not going fast enough. From my perspective, I am generating way more flint than what I can use with these 3 presses here. So we're gonna need to make some modifications to make this work at all. There's not really a great way to do this, and it probably depends quite a bit on how much flint you're actually gonna be generating here. My bet, the best way to do this is to just extend all of these belts out until you no longer need any more presses. So what I would do is just place them down in an every other pattern and then work on extending these belts. We're gonna do the same thing with our flint over here. And then we also wanna do it with our belt underneath, which is gonna cause a big old mess, but once you do that, you should be good. We can then put in our output barrel over on this side over here, and then we're gonna get in our brass funnels and have them go all the way along all of these down to the end. And honestly, what I would maybe do, then we're gonna need to grab our andesite funnels, bring them along as well. Same with the pipe over here, just make sure you're not going further than 15 blocks away from the pump way down there. I suspect you're not going to get far enough anyway. And then we need funnels over on the other sides as well. Once we have that, we can get in our mechanical presses going all the way down, make sure they're facing the right way, and then just put a shaft connecting them all. And there we go, we are all good. These will drop out once we get 64 andesite in any of these now. And we should, with a little tick warp, see our items start to drop down. And as long as that's happening, then we know we are going at as fast a speed as we can manage. And yep, after a little bit of time AFKing, you can see that we have not enough flint for the amount of presses that we have. You can see that this one runs occasionally, but then that makes this one stop. So what we could probably do is shrink this by at least 2, which, I mean, is always good. You'll save more space. That's the way I would do it, at least. You can always fine tune it. It will just take more space no matter kind of what method you use, but this is almost certainly the easiest, and it only takes a little bit more space and still looks quite cool. So there we go, that's what it looks like when you're using more flint, and just for the rates of this one, we are now generating 32,000 an hour instead of 21,000. So using an existing flint farm, you can up your rates by at least 10,000. All right, on with the rest of the video. You obviously don't need to do that if you'd prefer the just one-off solution, and maybe you just have an iron farm that throws out all its flint. That'll probably just work fine. To get now into the building process of it, first we're gonna start with the schematic. I'll have it on the screen right now, the timestamp for the block by block tutorial. You'll also find it in the chapters of this video. To start with the schematic, first you're gonna need to place it in. There have been issues recently with schematic's not working properly. If that's the case, you may need to paste it in with creative first and then start building through it. You'll still need to do some stuff, and obviously try not to have a creative fluid tank here. You're going to need to supply your own lava source, preferably an infinite one. If you need help on how to do that, I have a video on it that I'll put in the top right of the screen now. Once you have an infinite lava source going in here, we're going to need to fill in a bunch of lava sources on top of these cobblestone blocks. You could technically just have one source in the middle here, and that flows out to all of the other cobblestone. That'll work as well. We'll then need to fill in water into all of these drills over on this side here, the one that's open right now. And the reason for this is because there's trapdoors underneath preventing water from flowing everywhere. Once that's happened, we're going to need to connect it to power over on this side. And when this happens, things may be going backwards. I'll explain exactly how and why and how to fix it in a second. Once we connect it to power, make sure you have something that generates 34,000 stress units, but we're going to now check to see all the belts and stuff are going the correct way. You can see that for most of them, it seems like they are going the correct direction. If most things aren't, just invert this to the other way and then you'll be good. The main thing to look at is if this belt here is going the correct way. If it's going backwards, then invert it. Otherwise, keep it the same way, and then we can fix some of the stuff that may be going wrong. For me, that just happened to be this top belt area here, and that has to do with our encased chain drives right here. To fix this, all you're gonna need to do is place in 2 cogwheels here, and then we'll be good. Those will be going the correct way, looping around like so. The other thing we need to check for is to right-click our basin here, because it is currently dropping out andesite onto this belt, which we absolutely do not want. So right click that, it'll remove that droppy outy bit, and then it'll only drop it out from these brass funnels onto the belts here, until it goes all the way over to this depot, where we should be getting our first set of andesite eventually. It'll take a little bit to power up fully since our gravel needs to get into all of these belts and all that fun stuff. We're going to start over on the left and front side to get our flint pathways in, since those are just some simple belts. We're going to place in 2 shafts over on the back left corner and then 1 away from the front right left corner, and then we're going to place in a shaft sideways here. These 2 shafts going all the way to the back, we're gonna connect up with belts. And then this shaft over here, we're gonna go all the way to the end, 2 blocks back, place another shaft and connect that one with a belt. We're then gonna place in 3 depots here in a little kind of triangle pattern here. And then we're gonna place in a shaft over on this side that goes all the way to our belts here, connect those with a belt. And then we're gonna place in another shaft here that I suppose can be connected up to there. It doesn't really matter. And we're gonna have that go diagonally upward. We're going to extend that belt by 1 so it goes diagonally upward for 3 blocks total. And this is where our gravel is going to be dropping in from this kind of belt snaky system here. From there, we're going to get in a lot of our chutes and millstones. So we're going to place in chutes on every single one of these blocks over here, except for the front 2. So make sure you're omitting these 2 front blocks. And then we can place in millstones on top of all of these chutes. And then we can place in chutes on top of all of those millstones. I'm also going to come over here and place another chute on top of this diagonal belt that we placed in earlier. And then up top here, we're going to place in some more shafts. So the first one is going to go from the back right of the chute area and connect up to the front right back one of the chute area here, which is then going to go into a different belt. This one is going to be 2 blocks long in total and is going to loop around this way. Then we're going to place in a shaft here that's kind of floating in space and have that go all the way to the end, -1. At the very end, we're placing a depot and we're doing this. Okay, now that those are in, this is going to go this way. And then we have 2 here going this way. This one here going this way, landing on the depot here at the end. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. To connect these up to power, we're going to place in a gearbox here and here. And for now, that is all good. Next, we're going to connect up this belt to this one, placing a gearbox here. We're then over on this side going to place in a vertical gearbox like so. And then another belt going from here to here and connect those with a shaft, or sorry, connect those with a belt. We're then going to place in a shaft inside of this belt and then another shaft here. And then it's going to go all the way up to the second from the end. And we're going to connect those with a belt with a depot diagonally above it like so. Over on the other side of this belt, we're going to place in another vertical gearbox, a normal gearbox here. And then we're going to place in a belt that goes from here to here. This belt should be 2 long and connected up to this gearbox here. This will make sure that this belt and this belt are going opposite directions, which is exactly what we want. We're then going to have this gearbox connect up with an encased chain drive to something going up that'll connect up to our drills and such later on that you can see here. But before we connect up the drills, let's first build our kind of item elevator here. So we're going to have a chute going into this depot, and then a funnel going into this depot, and then a funnel going into this depot, and so on until we reach the top here. Then we're going to have a funnel going onto this belt, which will then have stuff float around this way. To drop items into the chute, we're going to place in a brass funnel, dropping out like so. Make sure the arrow is pointing outwards, and that's the same is true for all these. Make sure they're pointed towards where we want them to go. So for the belt, this depot, this depot, this depot, etc. The final thing I want to do on this level is to connect up this belt with this one and place a belt in the middle here. So we're going to place in 2 shafts inside of each of these belts, connect them with the shaft in the middle, and then place a shaft all the way at the end here and connect these 2 with a belt. This is where our output is going to be for all of our presses and stuff. Now let's get in our crushing wheels. They're going to go on top of both of these vertical gearboxes here. And now we can get in our cobblestone generator. We're going to place in 2 sets of volts here. The first one just going to be right here, and then actually I'm going to switch over to this side so we can place in a 3 wide one. This one should go all the way to the edge of the map. One thing to look out for with the schematic is these 2 item volts. If this back one is 3 blocks long, you're going to need to break it and place a chute there so that this front one is 3 blocks long instead. The reason for this is that they both need a brass funnel to drop items out from, and if this one is 3 blocks long, then this one won't have anywhere to drop out from, and you'll be at half the speed. Now we can get in our cobblestone generator. The first thing we're going to do is place in a 3 wide item volt here that should line up at the end perfectly with this belt here. And then we're going to place in 2 more item volt blocks that are technically not connected to the 3 we just placed over on this side here. We're going to place in andesite funnels going into all of them like so. And then we're going to get a brass funnel and place them first on this belt here. Make sure you set the value while right-clicking and holding to exactly 64. Then we're going to do the same thing over on this side. You may need to break the crushing wheel there to set the value. Make sure both of them are set to exactly 64. I'm going to place that back, but now we can get in the rest of the generator. 5 cobblestone blocks on top of our andesite funnels here, with drills on either side of them. Once those drills are in, we're going to put in our encased chain drives all the way along on both sides. And we're going to extend those out by 1 on either side on the back side so that we can connect them together over here, and then they can power each other. To do that, we're first going to place a vertical gearbox and then 2 shafts connecting it to the other side. We can then place shafts over on the bottom here, connecting the bottom bit to this vertical gearbox. On the other side of these drills, over on the interior side, I guess, we're going to place in trapdoors. These can be full blocks if you wish, but trapdoors are better because then you can kind of walk through it, at least for now. And then we're going to put a trapdoor over on this side facing, just blocking any water from coming out and lying. We're then going to come over to the front side and place another encased chain drive here with a mechanical press shaft, and then another mechanical press here with a mechanical press on the other side as well, so that we have 3 mechanical presses for all 3 of our andesite conversion basins. Now's the time we can get in water over here. You shouldn't see any water flowing out because of the trapdoors over on this side, the vertical gearbox and mechanical press over here, so that should all be contained. And then we can put in more framed glass trapdoors on top of all the drills and shafts to keep in our lava sources that are going to be in the middle. You could do all 5. I'm going to do 1 just for cheapness sake, but all we need is that lava is covering all of those blocks, and then we should be good. Now that our lava system is in, we can get in our andesite crafting system. These are going to be 3 basins starting at the gearbox and then going every other block until we reach the end over here. We're going to have andesite funnels going into each of these, and the same thing on the other side over here. We then need to grab some brass funnels, set the filter to andesite, and make sure it's set to exactly 64 blocks. Put this on the right side of both of these 2 basins here. We're also going to want to set the filters for the basins all to andesite, so make sure you click the filters there. And then over here, if you have a chute thing coming out onto this belt, make sure you right click it with a wrench. We may need to do that later anyway, but it's a good thing to do now. We also need to get in our lava connection. So we're going to grab a fluid pipe and bring it all the way along here. I'm then going to get in a pump facing this way. And then I'm going to use a creative fluid tank. You all obviously cannot do this. You need to get an infinite source of lava. If you don't know how to do this, check out the video in the top right corner of the screen. Oh, it might not be here now because I can only do that once. Well, I made a how to get infinite lava video, so just look it up, find it, do something. I don't know. I'll leave it also in the description if you want to check it out. But we're going to need an infinite lava source right here. And then we need to connect this pump to power. So just place a cog there and that should be all. The last thing we're going to need to do is connect up these belts to power. This will depend on the orientation with which you place your farm. So for now, we're just going to place in a shaft on this block here, and then we'll get to doing that later. Ooh, one more thing we need to do. Let's break this gearbox for now and place one below it. This one, we're going to turn it into a vertical gearbox, and then we're going to place in a cogwheel below it so that it connects up to our millstones here and powers those. we can then place back in our normal gearbox to connect up those belts again. Now I think we're ready to connect this all to power. Connecting it to power is pretty simple. We're going to place down a rotation speed controller with a large cogwheel on top and a shaft connecting it to this belt. Make sure to set this to 256 RPM. The direction doesn't matter for now because we'll get to that once we connect it to power. As a reminder, you need 34,000 stress units, but once you connect it to power, we should be up and running. One thing that broke immediately for me, and this is a worry, but we'll figure it out. I see what happened. We are going to need to put a gearbox and make it a vertical gearbox here. I might have made it a standard gearbox before. Oh, you know what I did? I made a slight mistake here. Okay, I figured out what I've done wrong here, and I've almost certainly done this wrong for you all as well. So what we need to do is break this belt and remove this shaft from this belt here. I think I said to add it, make sure you remove it now, because that is what was breaking it. But now we can get in our vertical gearboxes and such. So make sure you vertical gearbox here, and then we're going to need to grab a standard gearbox. Let's just go up there and grab it, and then we can connect it there, and then everything should be going the correct direction. Again, if it is not, just invert this to make it go the wrong direction, but the thing you care about is this belt here. Then we can place back our crushing wheels, and those should then be crushing our items for us. Before we turn on this upper belt here, make sure you remove any cobblestone that might have gotten through, because that should not be there. And then we need to power this upper belt here. The first thing to try is if 2 encased chain drives work. If it's backwards, then all you need to do is remove those encased chain drives and grab 2 cogs instead, and then those will be sending it the right direction. Once you have all that going, we should be seeing gravel make its way over to this side over here, and it looks like it is working. To get a final output over here, we need to set up a barrel and a funnel connected to it, as you can see here. Since this produces 21,000 items, you're going to need a inventory source larger than a barrel, but I'm assuming since you're using Create 6 that you're going to connect it up to your main storage base anyway, so just put a frog port on top and a packager and you'll be good. And after a little bit of AFKing, our barrel is already full, so yeah, that's definitely a sign to go put this somewhere else on like chain conveyors or something. But yeah, that is the build all done and dusted. So I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new and enjoy the content. I have a ton of more tutorials. I also do Let's Plays and stuff, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, there will be playlists about. If you go to my channel, they'll be there. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one.